Hey guys, Ted right here, obviously from Epic Archaeology. Welcome to this interview with my amazing friend and colleague, Dr. Douglas Petrovich. Doug and I have known each other for about 12 years or so, maybe longer, I'm not
maybe
sure,
longer.
Something like that. But I am very excited. This past weekend here in North Texas, Doug and I were speaking at an amazing church, an amazing conference where we discussed historical reliability of the Bible. Doug spoke about his new book, in which we're going to talk about right now. But Doug is a trained archaeologist, and he's also an expert in biblical languages and also ancient Egypt. And he has a new book that is just come out. In fact, it's going to be on Amazon very, very soon. So I want to take some time to share with all of our listeners and all of our watchers of Epic Archaeology this amazing new book by scholar Dr. Douglas Petrovich, who is currently now teaching at the Bible Seminary in Katy, Texas. And so the name of the book is The Origin of the Hebrews, New Evidence of the Israelites in Egypt from Joseph to the Exodus. So Doug, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me. And I want to ask you, how long have you been working on this book?
Directly, Ted, I started basically in about January of 2012, so 9 years. I interrupted the process to work on a new book that spawned out of this research, and I published that in 2016. It's called The World's Oldest Alphabet.
Yes.
And the focus of that is the claim that Hebrew is the language behind the world's oldest alphabetic script. And I stumbled into all of that because of the work that I was doing that was related to this new book.
Wow.
As far as evidence of Israelites in Egypt during the 430-year period that the Bible says they lived there, they resided there, from the point that Jacob moved his family down until the Exodus.
Right. So Doug and I, as many of you know who follow Epic Archaeology, we hold to and defend the early date of the Exodus, which was approximately 1446 BC, based on text in the Old Testament, 1 Kings 6:1, and then also the Jubilee cycles, and there's other things as well. And these are all in the book, right, Doug?
Yes.
And so the book, not only does it cover the Exodus, but also could you give us the highlights? What are the greatest hits of the book?
And there are two foci, essentially.
Okay.
There's the period that relates to Joseph's lifetime and the lifetime of his sons.
Okay.
And that corresponds in Egypt to the 12th dynasty.
Okay.
So we identify the abundance pharaoh, the famine pharaoh, and in Middle Egyptian hieroglyphics, we identify Joseph, his two oldest sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and one of the sons of Manasseh, whose name is Shechem. He's only mentioned once in the Bible.
Oh, wow.
So all of these figures are identifiable in inscriptions that are in Middle Egyptian. And ancient Egyptian language is the first minor of my PhD.
Wow. And Doug, you did your PhD at the University of Toronto, correct?
Yes.
And so the language, as many of you or may not be aware of, we have another episode of Monocle and Spade, our podcast on YouTube, that you can check out, where I interviewed Doug about this proto-consonantal script, which is, these are inscriptions in the Sinai Peninsula that are Semitic, and scholars are divided as to exactly what these inscriptions are. And what Doug proposes is that they're actually Hebrew, and Hebrew is the first alphabetic language, correct?
Right.
And so this is, and it's gotten a lot of reaction by a lot of scholars, and the majority of it, this is my opinion about this, majority of the knee-jerk reaction against Doug's thesis is the flat-out rejection of the historical Exodus.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them. Some of them try to reject it on other grounds, but I think that's a large part of it.
Absolutely.
Is that they just don't think the Exodus ever happened anyway.
Right.
So it can't be the Hebrews,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So this is is there like an age range the book is appealed? College students, high school, or is it like broad?
It's pretty broad.
Yeah.
Probably the sweet spot is about college age or a little bit older than that.
Okay.
But even if you're much older, I think I did my best to make it kind of walk the tightrope between that which scholars can look at and say that this is good material on a scholarly level. This is professional writing, and at the same time, trying to make an appeal to the Christian or to the person who's searching and looking and wanting to understand, is there evidence for Israelites in Egypt, and making it accessible to them as well.
Gotcha. And folks, this is, I just can't say enough about his work because never before, in my knowledge, has there been a work that tries to reconcile the historical record of the Old Testament, especially in the book of Exodus and also in the book of Genesis, with the ancient Egyptian inscriptions and history, and tries to dovetail Egyptian history with biblical history right down the line. And this book does that. And if you're interested in this question, the question of the historicity Exodus, you have got to get this book. And not just the Exodus, but the Israelite people. These are the people of God that God made a covenant with all throughout the Old Testament. In fact, it is the stream throughout the Old Testament, and you can trust it, that it really happened, and this is the evidence that backs it up.
Right.
What else would you want to say about the...
Yeah, in fact, let me go back to your question about the greatest hits.
Sure.
Here's some of the other things that are in the book. There's the identification of the original home that was built in the first Asiatic occupational phase at the site of Avaris, and I'm connecting Avaris with biblical Ramses.
Okay.
And so this is a variation of a tripartite building, which is a three-part building, as you know.
Yeah.
But there is a fourth wing, and it's actually the oldest four-room house in history that we know about.
Wow.
Right? And I argue in the book that that's Jacob's home. And then in several phases later, during subsequent archaeological periods there, we have additional four-room houses. Pre-Hyksos, before the Hyksos arrive, and after the Hyksos arrive, right?
Wow.
So there's a continuity of these people who customarily make four-room houses.
Right.
And as you know, in the land of Israel, the four-room house
right.
is one of the diagnostic features of the Israelite people.
That's right.
So they have this four-room house thing going all the way from Jacob's lifetime and into their settlement into Canaan much later, centuries later. So that's part of what's in there. Also, I deal with the temples that were there that Israelites would have used and did use for the worship of, you're not going to like this, but pagan gods.
No.
But that's exactly what the Bible says.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Right. So there's that. There's more related to the 12th dynasty, but then there's also a lot related in the book to the 18th dynasty, showing evidence for the lifetime of Moses,
Okay.
and specifically dealing with things like burials of individuals who were either decapitated or limbs missing. They were buried with ritual desecration, right? And you can clearly see that these are people who've been tortured and physically harmed and majorly abused.
Yeah. Wow.
And then there's evidence of animals dating to the very time of Amenhotep II, which, as you know, in my 2006 journal article, I try to prove that the Exodus pharaoh is Amenhotep II. And so these burials consist of animals of four types. And incidentally, they're the same four types that are mentioned in Exodus 11 and 12.
Wow.
Dogs, cattle, goats, and sheep, right?
Wow.
Those four animals that the Bible mentions, they're found in burials, in many cases mass burials, and the majority of the sheep and goats are in their first year of age as they die, right? There's one ewe lamb that dies as it's giving birth. There's another a ram that's killed by a blow to the back of the head, which obviously shows that this is intentional death.
That's right.
It's meant to be kind of a what's the word for a careful, merciful killing,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But it happens nonetheless.
Right.
So, and of course, the Israelites are instructed at the first Passover to slaughter sheep or goats that are in their first year of age, as the Hebrew text says. The English translations don't really get it right. They say 1-year-olds as if they're older than a year, but the Hebrew is son of a year, which means less than a year.
Wow.
And it corresponds perfectly to the animals that died in the plague of the coming of the death angel, the 10th plague on Egypt.
10th plague. It's just remarkable, Doug, and you know this as much as me and anybody else. The typical view in academia about the Exodus is that it just never occurred. How do you think they're going to receive this?
I'm going to lose a lot more friends than I have after my first book came out.
That's okay.
And a lot of colleagues who don't want to talk to me anymore. But that's part of the deal, right? I mean, if we're going to support biblical historicity, we need to take our lumps.
That's right.
And I'm going to be taking a lot of lumps.
Amen.
And a lot of criticisms are going to come out there. But just remember, a criticism isn't a refutation.
That's right.
Just because people claim that my book is faulty doesn't make it faulty.
Right.
So, have them, I'll debate any scholar who wants to debate the issues related in my book. I'll debate with any. Let's do it in public. Let's do it at a university. Let's put the lights and the cameras on, and let's get it on the internet so that people can see it.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, you heard it. You hear, folks. But if you want to check it out, it's called The Origins of the Hebrews, New Evidence of the Israelites in Egypt from Joseph to the Exodus. Douglas Petrovich, Egyptologist, archaeologist, Old Testament scholar, hardcover, really awesome. Also, I have to show you this as well. The book also has some amazing illustrations in here. He's talking about Avaris and some of these inscriptions. You can see there, these are remarkable. Some of the work you did yourself, right?
Yeah.
Some of this work.
Especially the inscriptions.
The inscriptional work. So it's very well documented, and if you want more details, then it will eventually be on Amazon,
Yeah.
right?
Should be by December of 2021. It should be on Amazon, available
Okay,
for purchase.
so by the time you guys see this, it may or may not be on Amazon yet. This is how new it is. So I wanted you guys to know about it, and I wanted you to have a first chance to think about getting it when it comes out. I'll be posting links on Epic Archaeology. You can check it out. But we stand behind Doug in his work and fully agree with his views on the Exodus and the historicity of the Hebrews in Egypt, and that's where they came from. God brought them out of Egypt. Out of Egypt I brought my son. And interestingly, Christ, the Son of God, went down into Egypt as well. And I learned something very interesting a while back, that the ancient Rome, that Egypt was the breadbasket of Rome. And isn't it interesting that the bread of life comes from Egypt, and that Christ, not only did he come for the Jews, he came for the Gentiles as well.
And Ted, the breadbasket of Egypt is known as the Fayum. And the Fayum was first exploited during the reign of Sesostris II. He is the abundance pharaoh.
Oh, wow.
And I document this in the book. And Joseph is the one who constructed this canal, this dike, that connected water from the Bar Yusuf, which is an offshoot of the Nile that flows into the Mediterranean Sea. He constructed a dike that filtered water into this valley known as the Fayum and used it as irrigation channels. And from that point forward, this is the 19th century BC, from that point forward to modern times, it's been the breadbasket of Egypt.
Oh, wow. It's
All at
amazing.
Joseph's hands.
All at Joseph's hands. Quite remarkable. So check this out, folks. Doug, thank you so much, brother.
My pleasure,
And,
Ted.
God bless you.
Thank you.